Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene recently suggested that people who are in prison for rioting on January 6th are being discriminated against based on the color of their skin because they're white. Take a look.
Here's what I can say about criminal justice reform. I do not think it's good for anyone in prison to have to read Nation of Islam newspapers and that be one of the only publications they have, or information or curriculum that informs them because of the color of their skin. This is why they're being treated this way. I don't think that is good to rehabilitate anyone. I think in prisons and jail, we should rehabilitate people. As far as the difference in the jail, though, it's very clear. The January 6th defendants, they were not allowed to participate in any of the continuing education curriculums that we were shown that other inmates and other pretrial defendants are allowed to participate in. The January 6th defendants are not allowed to participate in job training like the other inmates and defendants are allowed to participate in. The January 6th defendants are not allowed to participate in mock trials that there was a third-year law school student there helping other inmates learn how to handle the courtroom and what to do. None of those things were offered for the January 6th defendants. They were isolated in a separate wing of the jail where they are abused, where they are ridiculed, where they are mocked because of their political beliefs and because of January 6th and because of the color of their skin. So there is a two-tier justice system, and these are the things that need to end. I believe in criminal justice reform, but I believe it should be reform that's fair completely across political lines and skin color. And I can tell you what we saw in the D.C. jail, none of that exists.
Oh, wow. Now she's in favor of prison reform. Well, isn't that interesting? I mean, you want to talk about irony here, okay? Marjorie Taylor Greene, pro-prison reform. Feels weird, man. Feels real weird. So, look, again, this was a press conference where she was touting this report, this Republican-backed report on the January 6th defendants and their conditions in jail, which I'm sure are not good. You know why? Because jail itself is not good. not a pleasant place to be. Turns out weird, I know. Especially in America, where, you know, of developed countries, I think we've got some of the worst conditions. Again, of developed countries, there are obviously places that are worse for inmates. But certainly, we don't exactly favor rehabilitation in this country, especially, of course, when it comes to people of color. So now that gets to what she was saying. Oh, they're being treated badly because they're white MAGA. Oh, they're Trump supporters. The color of their skin. And that's why they're being treated so unfairly in the D.C. jail. Oh. Now, this is the narrative that they're pushing, which goes back to white grievance. And that's what it is, purely. Oh, white people are being treated badly, worse than minorities. See, it's not racism against black people. That doesn't exist. But it's racism against white people, especially white Trump-supporting Republicans. Oh, they're the real victims. They're the real victims. No, here's the thing. They're being treated like any other prisoner. I mean, look how close they are, though. They're so close. They're so close to realizing that prison in the United States has always sucked. It just sucks. It's not supposed to be a resort. That said, am I in favor of prison reform? Absolutely. Of course they are. I would definitely love to see a less punishing system and more of a system of, as she mentioned, rehabilitation. The conditions, by the way, though, that she talks about that are so heinous and abhorrent, well, those are normal prison conditions for black and poor people. I'm just saying, if you go to jail as a black person for a nonviolent drug possession, which happens all the time, even though, you know, marijuana is legal in many different states, it should be legalized federally, Biden, you should get on that. And not only that, but you know, if they're going to legalize, you know, drugs, marijuana, at least cannabis, then they should scrub all convictions and let all of the people that were put in jail for a plant out. But then, of course, they don't do that. But here's the thing, right? So prison, again, in the United States sucks, and they get treated very poorly in prison, no matter what you're in for. This is how they're treated. And yet, Republicans, when it happens to one of them, when it happens to MAGA chuds, well, then suddenly they're like, oh, I can't believe how bad jail is. Wow, look at the conditions. They're so bad. Oh, and it's not because prison has always been bad, because then we'd actually have to admit that racism is real, and that black people get treated worse because they're a large percentage of the prison population. No, it's only bad because they're white. Oh, of course. No, the conditions have always been bad, and they didn't even realize it. And it's really amazing. The absolute caucasity of this situation, okay? But there's also a more insidious part of this. Other than just making fun of how ridiculous Marjorie Taylor Greene is. See, the thing is, they don't have a problem with treating everyone else like this in these conditions. They loved it when, for example, Sheriff Joe Arpaio would humiliate prisoners of color by, like, I don't know, I think I remember a story where he made them wear like pink tutus and stuff to try to humiliate them. Oh, look at the, you know, Latino prisoners that I captured. We're gonna make them parade around in little frilly dresses. Is that like some sort of kink? I'm not kink shaming or anything like that, but it just seems wrong to inflict that kink upon prisoners that have no control. There seems to be a little bit of a lack of consent here in that issue. Maybe there's something wrong with Mr. Joe Arpaio. But again, they loved it. They loved it when Arpaio would humiliate prisoners. Loved it. But, oh, now when it's Trump supporters, not even being humiliated, by the way, but just being put in jail in normal jail conditions, well, now they're like, oh, hold on there. You can't treat us like this. Yeah, you can't treat us like this at all. No. You know, maybe you shouldn't treat anyone like that. I'm just saying. And here's the thing, too. Controversial take. I don't think QAnon shaman should have been put in solitary. I don't think anybody should have been put in solitary. Solitary confinement is literal torture. That is what the UN is saying. That is a literal form of torture. Civilized countries do not use solitary confinement because it's really bad for the mental state. And by the way, if you're QAnon shaman, your mental state's already pretty iffy. You might not want to do anything to exacerbate that because, again, I don't believe in torture, and I understand that I might be a little lefty than some of you watching when it comes to prison reform. I get it, but we got to do something. Prison shouldn't be horrible. Prison should be about rehabilitation when possible, and of course, in the most extreme cases, making sure that that person still gets treated like a human being, but is kept away from the population at large to protect the rest of the population. There is a way that you can do this, all right? I mean, again, I want to see prison reform for everyone. But now, make no mistake, Marjorie Taylor Greene says, oh, I support prison reform. Now, normally it'd be like, oh, great, cool, great. We can work together. Let's do some prison reform. But that's not it. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not a good faith actor. Understand that they wouldn't care at all about conditions if it were BLM. Because they didn't care when black people were in prison before this. Donald Trump would if it were BLM, that had done January 6th instead, right? Trump would have called for the execution, the death penalty of everyone involved. Just like he did, for example, the Central Park 5, where he literally took out a full-page ad saying, I don't know, they're black, we should kill them, they had to have done something. This is after they were exonerated, by the way, because they didn't do it, they weren't guilty. But they say, they had to have done something anyway, they're black, obviously. And by the way, not even all black, they're There were some Latinos that were in there as well. But in MAGA eyes, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They must have done something wrong. So as usual, this is just blatant, disgusting, but consistent hypocrisy from Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.